Ben Shapiro announces that he is following the footsteps of Theo Vaughn, Joe Rogan, Joey Diaz, and getting the hell out of California. Let's hear from Ben himself why he is leaving California.
Are you ready for a big announcement? So, I have been asked 1,000 times over the past few years, why in the world are you in California? Like, why? Why would Daily Wire stay in California? I mean, this place has turned into a hellhole. All you do all day long on the show is just complain about how bad California has been. And the answer was that I've been in California literally my entire life, except for a 3-year stint when I was at Harvard Law School in Boston.
Flex. What a flex. Dude just flexing all over you. I mean, just humble brag out of his mind.
Aside from that, I've spent my entire life in California. And I love this state. It's a beautiful state. It's a state with a lot of culture and a lot of fun to it. You know, it's a great place in terms of activities.
I can't even imagine what Ben Shapiro's fun is.
You got the beach nearby, you got Disneyland. And then over time, it just became a hellhole. And it has become a hellhole at this point. And so yesterday, we here at the Daily Wire announced that we are moving the entire company to Nashville. So just yesterday, Governor Jerry Brown, former governor of California from 1975 to 1983, and then again from 2011 to 2019, he said, where are you going to go? Where are you going to go? You can't, okay, you say that California's bad. Where are you going to go? The answer is we are going to Nashville. We are taking the entire company and we are picking up and we are leaving and we are putting our headquarters in Nashville. Okay, that is where the company will now be located. We're taking all 75 of our jobs and we're taking our tens of millions of dollars in annual revenue and we are moving all of that outside the state of California. And this is specifically and really only due to the crappy governance of the state. It is not because we are foreign to the state. Again, I've lived here my entire life. My business partner, Jeremy Boring, has been here for 20 years. My parents have been here longer than I've been alive. We're not doing it because we dislike California, because we are newbies, because we couldn't take the heat, anything like that. I've been here the whole time. We are leaving because this place has become so horribly governed that if you have the means to get out, and if you have a company relying on you, and if you have employees who are relying on you, you are going to leave. We are but the tip of the spear. We are not the only ones. Elon Musk has already decided to leave the state. He'll probably be taking a lot of employees with him over time. Joe Rogan has already left the state. We are leaving the state as well. Again, we are taking...
This is an interesting trend I think you'll see a lot of. So, for most of my life, the idea of these big cities, the idea of living on the coast, New York or California or what have you, these huge cities, these huge places of opportunity. I've said it before. It's especially in media where you don't need to be next to the Warner Brothers studio. You don't need to be next to LAX. You don't need to be in Los Angeles or New York or wherever. You can virtually do your shows. You can make your content. You can do whatever anywhere. If you take Barstool, for example, Barstool is based in New York City. If Barstool picked up tomorrow and moved to Houston, nothing would change. If Barstool picked up and moved to Chicago, nothing would change. If they picked up and moved to Las Vegas, nothing would change. And I think these places, these people are realizing that. These Joe Rogans, the Ben Shapiros, the whoever, they're looking and they're saying, look, man, this state just does not align with my beliefs. This state is not looking great for me. And like Ben Shapiro just said, if you have the means, go. If you have the means, get out. And I'm not gonna lie. There are times in my life where I've thought I need to get out of where I'm from. And it's nothing to do with how it's governed or stuff like that, but it's just the idea that, maybe there is something somewhere else, whether it's opportunity or whether it's just a new adventure or whether it's, different mindsets or different thinkings or different surroundings. And if you're someone like the Daily Wire or Joe Rogan or Elon Musk, who it doesn't, you can basically pick a spot on the map that better aligns with your ideals, that better aligns with what your company's trying to do, that better aligns with your creative center, then yeah, why wouldn't you leave? And California is the current exodus, or the current place of exodus, but I think you'll see a lot of the same in New York. You'll see a lot of the same in a lot of these big cities. People will just find other places, and they'll go.
75 employees who are based in California, and we are moving. We have about 100 employees across the country, and we are relocating to a state that is not run like garbage, Tennessee. And now, did my business partner and did Jeremy and I and Caleb Robinson, our other business partners, did we ever think that we were going to be moving this company to Nashville? No. Otherwise, we wouldn't have built up these big, beautiful studios here in Los Angeles and employed a bunch of people in Los Angeles. And hilariously enough, when we announced this to our employees, we thought, okay, a lot of people are going to be very upset about it. It turns out far more of our employees are excited about leaving California than would be excited about staying in California because this place has become unlivable. Not only is the rent too damn high because of all of the garbage zoning regulations here, but the quality of life here has degraded radically. Now, I'll be honest with you, I had a tough time convincing my wife just to leave California. Okay, and to be frank with you, I'm going to be splitting my time in some different places, not just in Nashville. But the fact is that trying to get my wife to leave California was not an easy task because she, too, has spent a lot of her life in California. She lived in Sacramento, and now she lives in LA, and so she's been in California for a very long time. And over the past 2 years, she's looked around and she said, okay, I guess you're right. And the reason for that is perfectly obvious. Between the city of Los Angeles deciding that they were going to cede the entire city to low-level criminality, they were not going to enforce the law, they were not going to keep the streets clean, they were not going to make it livable for me to allow my children to play outside of our front gate without adult supervision, between them allowing the streets to become incredibly dirty and dangerous, because here's the reality. If I let my kids walk around the neighborhood, they will stumble across 2 open needles during the course of that walk, because the city has...
I've seen this, I know on Joe Rogan's Instagram, or maybe even his Twitter. He's put up videos of him driving down the street, and the sidewalk is just covered in garbage, covered in trash, or homeless people, or tents, or whatever. So, I mean, I've seen people in California, in Los Angeles, putting this on their social media and putting it out there. And like I said, when you think of Los Angeles, like these people are telling you, it's not the Los Angeles you were thinking of 10 years ago. And now that all these other places are being built up, like Nashville, like Austin, Texas, now that these places are being built up, these creators, these guys who, it's much harder to move, like a Walmart or a huge corporation with thousands of employees. It's much harder to move that spot. But for a Daily Wire or the Joe Rogan podcast or, Theo Vaughn or Joey Diaz or to pick up and just say, well, I mean, this is a pretty clean move. For a lot of these guys, it just makes a ton of sense. I think right now is a time in America where you'll see a lot of people moving to places where they say, well, let me take a look. Where is there a high quality of life? Where is a city that has stuff that I want to be a part of? Where is a city that has my ideals at the forefront? Where are these places? And then to take a look at those places and say, okay, which one of those can I move to? Which one of those do I need to start my life into? I think you'll see a lot of people in the next couple of years moving out of maybe what was believed the hotbeds and moving to these serene places. I know Arizona is getting a lot of people moving to it. Nashville, obviously, Austin, Montana, Bozeman, Montana is exploding. A ton of people are just kind of picking these little honey holes and saying, well, this place is much better for my life and my business than California. Whereas 20 years ago, there's no question. It's like, look, you're just not going to have the same ceiling in Nashville that you're going to have in California, in Los Angeles. You're not going to have the higher potential anywhere but New York, right? No one would say, I can do just as good, if not better, in Austin than I can in New York City. But right now, that's bottom line. It's just the truth. And bottom line is these other cities are flourishing and giving these people what they want. It's not just content creators, businessmen. It's just everyday people who are looking to better their quality of life. And like Ben said, I mean, back in my early in my career, I was looking at San Francisco and trying to get a job at like IGN or trying to get a job at Bleacher Report when it was first starting up. And I was looking at Frisco. I was looking at like apartments, and it's like $2,000-$3,000 a month for literally a 600 square foot studio. And you just don't have to do that now. Back in the day, yeah, if I want to be an actor or something, I gotta go to LA. I don't have a choice. I gotta go out there and figure it out. But now, it's not. That's not the case. And the same with Bleacher Report. When I was doing this, I mean, you're talking about 6-7 years ago now, somewhere in there. Probably longer than that. Probably 8 years ago. I'm looking at like Frisco, California, Burbank, places like that, and you only had a few options. And now, I mean, back 8 years ago, Nashville wasn't even what it is now. Nashville just hosted the NFL draft. So places are building up, places are blowing up, and people are taking full advantage.
Specifically told law enforcement they can't do anything about the rampant homelessness problem that has plagued Los Angeles. There are 66,000 homeless people in LA County. Every single underpass in LA has entire living facilities for homeless people. This is not, by the way, sympathy to the homeless, many of whom really need serious help. They are drug addicted or mentally ill, And the city has decided that in the name of freedom, they're going to allow the suburbs to be overrun by this homelessness problem that does affect.
Homelessness is a weird thing because in my city, homelessness has become a really, really bad problem. And it's a problem that is being boosted by surrounding states. I think Houston was busing homeless people to my city and dropping them off here. We're in kind of a little belt area where it's in between a lot of things, and there's a lot of public transit that goes through. So I think people can easily get here as far as like from Florida or from Texas or Louisiana. And we recently have had this huge homeless problem. And the place I'm from only has like 40, 50,000 people living in it. So when you have a big homeless problem out of nowhere spiking, it's very noticeable. And the downtown area, I mean, so I go and run. Sometimes I go down and run. We have like a bunch of casinos. And I go run down the strip. And it's like a little bit of beach and then the strip of casinos. And I usually, that's kind of like a path I do. I had to stop running that path because part of the path got to where I was literally running through, because it's like a boardwalk. I was running through about 40 homeless people sleeping on the beach every single morning. And I go run like 4 or 5 in the morning. And at a certain point, I was like, man, I got to find a different route. I mean, this is a beautiful boardwalk on a beach next to a giant casino. And there's like 40 sleeping bags every single night, every morning. There are so many stops, there's so many red lights, there's so many stop signs on my way home or on my daily commute where I know I can't have my window down because there's going to be people panhandling. There's going to be people asking me for money. And what are you going to do? You call the cops on them. Cops come. Cops say, look, man, we're going to arrest you. They don't give a shit. They'll get arrested, go, in the jail for a day or two, get back out and go right back to the street. I've seen people down there homeless who I knew personally. Like I knew who they were. And they may not be homeless, but they're like panhandling or working. You can actually buy, in my city, you can buy a permit to panhandle on like the interstate off ramps. So these people would just go get the permit and they're panhandling as like a side hustle. They're panhandling like Uber. And so I know, and I mean, if he's saying 66,000 people, that's a whole lot more homeless than we've got. It's more homeless than we have residents. So, and I'm talking about on a very micro level, when the homelessness is an issue and the homelessness spikes, it can certainly be very obvious and certainly be hard on your quality of life.
People who are paying their taxes. And between the fact that they've decided to defund the cops and move away from allowing the police to do their jobs entirely, between the increased taxes and the higher levels of crime and the lower levels of cleanliness, between the fact that God decided to plague the state with a giant wildfire spate over the last several years, apparently. It's like, I didn't need the help, God. Like, I got it. I didn't need the signs and the wonders to drive me from California. And frankly, I'm just hoping that when Michael Knowles looks back at California as we make our way out, that he turns around, he looks back, and he immediately turns into a pillar of salt. Like, that is my dream. But whether or not that happens, we are leaving, and you're going to see more of this. Again.
So the wildfires are an interesting thing because, like, where I live also, we have bad hurricanes. And when Hurricane Katrina hit, a lot of people were just, like, washing their hands of that natural disaster. They were just like, you know what? We're moving to a place where there's no hurricanes because I don't want to do this every year. I don't want to possibly get hit with a cataclysmic storm every 20 years, every 30 years. I don't want to do that. And so I get with the wildfires. I mean, it seems like Los Angeles has been on fire for 5 years straight. I mean, we just had, they have wildfires all the time. And like he said, it's at a certain point, there is no positive. At a certain point, there's a lot of places with beaches. There's a lot of places with, nice things that Los Angeles has. The positives don't add up like they used to. And that's for New York. That's for LA. That's for all these places that people are just bolting out of. They're just getting out of there at a rapid rate.
And you're going to see a lot of this. New York, New Jersey, Connecticut. You're going to see this in.
I've already said that, Ben. I mean, I've already said that. We just spent 30 seconds saying that. I mean, I know you have your own show, but I just said that, man. I mean, don't repeat what I'm saying. I'm reacting to what you're saying. Don't just say what I'm saying.
LA. You're going to see this in San Francisco.
I already brought up San Francisco. I said I talked about that 10 minutes ago.
People are going to pick up and they are going to leave. And the people who are most likely to leave are the people who can afford to leave.
I said, Ben, you're not. I'm trying to react to you. You can't just react to me, brother.
Let's be honest about this. The people who are going to get trapped in Los Angeles are the people who are lower middle class because they don't have the wherewithal to pick up and leave. They don't get to decide, honestly, where.
It's not just lower middle class. It's also people who are, I mean, lower middle class does have a part of it, but it's also people who, like, it's very easy for Joe Rogan and for Ben Shapiro and for Theo Vaughn and for Joey Diaz. Their whole company, their whole business is them, right? Like, that. It's easy to do that. If you're working at UPS, if you're working for the post office, if you're working for a school district in LA and you've got a wife and kids, you can't just be like, hey, let's move to Nashville. It's like, okay, well, hold on a second. I need to find a job. We need to sell our house. We need to actually, I have a video about Joe Rogan and Theo Vaughn leaving, and one of the comments said, Joe Rogan can't leave California until he sells his house in California. And it's like, some people don't understand that quality of life difference. They don't understand that what the 1% can do. Joe Rogan probably isn't selling his house. Ben Shapiro's probably not even selling his house. They're just picking up and moving. If I moved to Nashville, I'd have to answer the question of what I do with my house very quick. I'd have to answer, well, I got to rent it out or I got to sell it. But I definitely couldn't just move to Nashville and be like, I'll worry about the house later. Nope, that's not the case. So it's a lot of different factors. It's different factors as in where you work, what you do, how easy it is to find a job somewhere else. A friend of mine is a psychologist, and he's a therapist, and he's told me before he likes to move around every couple of years, but he can find work immediately. Everywhere needs a therapist. He's a behavioral therapist. Everywhere. If you're a dentist, you can find work in Los Angeles. You can find work in Nashville. It's all the same. But if you're working, like I said, if you're like I said, a UPS worker or something like that. Yeah, UPS is everywhere, but they might not be hiring. Like the UPS is in Nashville, might not be hiring. So you can't just say, all right, I quit. See ya. So it is a little bit of the lower middle class, but it's also what industry specifically you're in.
Where their jobs take place. As the head of a company, I get to decide where we take our jobs, and we are excited to allow our people a better living standard moving to some place like Nashville that is not governed like garbage in a red state, than forcing them to stay in a place that is very difficult to raise children and to live. But blue states for too long have thought that they can govern as badly as they want and there will be no consequences. That's true to a point, and then beyond that point, it is no longer true. We have reached the breaking point. We are leaving, and so Daily Wire will see you in Nashville. Big announcement.
There you go.